Same price, same day, two completely different universes. On one side, you may be looking at a condo near the metro with an urban lifestyle and a relatively small footprint. On the other, you may be looking at a detached suburban home with multiple bedrooms, a yard, and a garage. What does an $850,000 budget actually buy you in Northern Virginia? The answer is everything from a historic row house you can walk to dinner from to a detached home with enough space for a family, a home office, and a dog. Today, I'm showing you why the same budget leads to completely different lives depending on where you land on the Northern Virginia map. I'm Brian Block. I've been helping buyers and sellers navigate Northern Virginia real estate for more than 2 decades. And this is one of the most important lessons that buyers need to understand. In many parts of the country, an $850,000 budget tells you approximately what kind of home you can afford. Here in Northern Virginia, it does not. Here, your neighborhood may determine whether you're buying a condo, a townhouse, a historic row house, or a detached house with a yard. The question is not simply, how much house can I buy? The better question is, what do I want my money to buy? Do you want the shortest commute, walkability, a garage, a yard, more bedrooms, less maintenance, a historic neighborhood, or a home that gives you room to grow? So let's move the same budget around the map and see what changes here in Northern Virginia. Let's start in Arlington. At this price point, Arlington gives you choices, but it also makes you set your priorities. If your goal is to live near Roslyn, Courthouse, Clarendon, or Ballston, your strongest options will often be condos. You may find a larger 2-bedroom unit, a condo with a den, garage parking, a balcony, or a building with many amenities. You are paying for the ability to walk to Metro, grab dinner without getting into your car, and keep your commute relatively manageable. But move a little bit south towards Columbia Pike, Penrose, Alcova Heights, or other parts of South Arlington, and the housing stock begins to shift. Now, you may be looking at a townhouse, a duplex-style property, or occasionally an older detached home with some compromises. This is where buyers need to stop thinking of Arlington as one market. An $850,000 budget near Ballston buys a different lifestyle than an $850,000 budget near Columbia Pike. Near Ballston, your money may buy convenience. In South Arlington, your money may buy a front door, additional bedrooms, outdoor space, or a more practical layout. So now let's cross into Alexandria. Alexandria is where the contrasts become especially interesting, because saying I want to live in Alexandria is not specific enough. There are several very different versions of Alexandria. In Old Town, an $850,000 budget is often closer to the entry level. You're paying for the brick sidewalks, the waterfront, the restaurants, the architecture, and the ability to walk out your front door and feel like you live somewhere distinctive. But charm has a price. You may need to live with a smaller kitchen, a tighter floor plan, limited parking, or a home that still needs quite a bit of updating. In Old Town, you're not buying the maximum amount of square footage. You're buying a daily experience. And for the right buyer, that's absolutely worth it. Move north into Delray, and the personality changes again. Here, your budget may buy a townhouse, a duplex, or a smaller detached home. You may not get the largest house. You may not get a luxury kitchen, but you gain a neighborhood that feels unusually social and connected. You can definitely walk to coffee, walk to brunch, walk to dinner, see neighbors out with their dogs. There's a rhythm to the Delray neighborhood. For some buyers, that matters more than an extra bedroom. Now, move west into Cameron Station. The experience at this budget changes immediately. At approximately the same budget, you may find a larger multi-level townhouse, a garage, more storage, additional bedrooms, and a more planned community feel. You are giving up some of the historic character of Old Town and some of the casual neighborhood personality of Delray, but your home may function more comfortably on a daily basis. You may have more room for guests, a home office, a garage, and a basement level flex space, and probably enough storage that your belongings are not constantly competing for space. Old Town gives you charm. Delray gives you personality. Cameron Station gives you practicality. Same city, same general budget, 3 very different lives. Here, is the most important idea in this entire video. Every Northern Virginia neighborhood has its own currency. In Arlington, you often pay for proximity. In Old Town, you pay for character. In Delray, you pay for walkability and personality. In Cameron Station, you're paying for a more complete townhouse lifestyle. In places like Annandale, you may be paying for land and interior space. And in West Springfield, you may be paying for the traditional suburban package. However, there is also a simple framework that helps explain almost every decision that you are about to make. I call it the Northern Virginia trade-off triangle. Location, space, condition. Most buyers want all three. They want the perfect location, more bedrooms, a yard, a garage, a beautifully renovated kitchen, a short commute, metro access, and a recognizable neighborhood name. But at this particular price point, you usually cannot maximize all three corners of this triangle. Pull the location lever up, and you may need to compromise on space. Pull the space lever up, and you may need to move a little bit further out. Pull the condition lever up, and you may need to accept a smaller home or a different neighborhood. The goal is not to avoid trade-offs. The goal is to choose the right trade-offs for you. And none of these contrasts are as extreme as what happens when we take this same budget into one of Northern Virginia's most famous zip codes. I'll show you that sticker shock moment near the end of the video. If you like the practical feel of Cameron Station, but you need to be closer to Tysons, Arlington, or the Orange Line Metro, that is when we start talking about Falls Church. Falls Church can offer a strong balance between central location and livability. But you also need to understand what the words Falls Church actually mean. A Falls Church mailing address may refer to the city of Falls Church, or it may refer to a neighborhood in Fairfax County. Those are not the same thing. They may have different schools, different tax rates, different commute patterns, and different housing stock, and very different price expectations. As a former attorney, I always tell buyers to check the tax line carefully. Falls Church City has its own tax rate, and that can surprise buyers who are new to the area. I know it sounds like geography class, but this one distinction can save you or cost you thousands of dollars and a lot of frustration. So please stick with me, because the next stop is much simpler. It's about the house to land ratio. At the $750,000 to $900,000 price point, Falls Church buyers may find a townhouse, an older detached home, or a property that needs some updating. The key advantage is centrality. You may not get the biggest house in Falls Church, but you may remain relatively well positioned for Tysons, Arlington, Washington, and several major commuting routes. Now, let's talk about Annandale. Annandale does not always receive the same attention as Arlington, Old Town, McLean, or Falls Church. And that is precisely why buyers should pay attention to it. For buyers who want to stay inside or close to the Beltway without paying the Arlington premium, Annandale can feel like an insider's secret. At this price point, Annandale may give you something increasingly difficult to find elsewhere: a detached house, a real yard, a basement, off-street parking, possibly a garage, and enough space to really live comfortably. Will every home be beautifully renovated? No. Some kitchens will feel dated, and some bathrooms will need work. Some of the floor plans will reflect the era during which the homes were built. But buyers need to separate cosmetic inconvenience from structural value. A dated bathroom can be renovated. A small lot is difficult to expand. Annandale can be an excellent option for buyers who care more about function than prestige. And some buyers reject it too quickly because they're buying with their ego instead of their actual lifestyle. There's nothing glamorous about paying a premium for an address while your daily life feels cramped and inconvenient. Now, move farther south into Springfield and West Springfield. This is where your $850,000 budget may begin to buy a more complete suburban package. A detached home with a yard, 3, 4, or maybe even 5 bedrooms, a basement, possibly a garage, a quieter street, and a neighborhood that feels established. The trade-off is clear. You're moving farther from the urban core. Depending on where you work and when you commute, your drive may become more significant. This is where buyers need to think seriously about what I call the commute tax. A lower purchase price or a larger home can look great on paper. However, If you are spending substantially more time in traffic every week, you're paying for that house with more than just your money. You're paying time and energy. You may not have the same restaurant scene or walkable lifestyle in Springfield as you would find in Arlington, Old Town, or Del Rey, but your home may work better for you and your family. You may have space for the kids, guests, a home office, a dog, storage, a grill, a yard, and possibly enough room that you do not feel the need to move again in 3 years. The largest home is not always the right home, but a home that constantly feels too small can create its own kind of daily stress. Now, let's take that same $850,000 budget into McLean and Tysons. This is where the contrast becomes almost absurd. In Annandale or West Springfield, your budget, as we discussed, may buy a detached home with a yard, a basement, and multiple bedrooms. In McLean or Tysons, that same money may put you right back into a condo. That does not necessarily make it a bad choice, but it is a completely different choice. Maybe you work in Tysons. Maybe you travel frequently. Perhaps you do not want to spend your weekends cutting grass in the yard or dealing with exterior maintenance. Maybe you value concierge service, garage parking, a wonderful fitness center, rooftop pool, and the ability to lock the door and just leave town. That can be completely rational, but buyers need to understand what is happening. You're not simply choosing a different neighborhood. You're purchasing a whole different category of housing. So let's make the decision simple. If your $750,000 to $900,000 budget needs to buy the shortest commute and metro access, if it needs to buy brick sidewalks, restaurants, and waterfront charm, if it needs to buy neighborhood personality and walkability, if it needs to buy a garage, storage, and a larger townhouse, if it needs to buy a centrally located compromise, if it needs to buy a detached house, land, and room to grow, if it needs to buy the traditional suburban package, and if it needs to buy convenience, amenities, and a Tysons area address. Here is the takeaway. Between $750,000 and $900,000, Northern Virginia buyers still have many meaningful choices. However, this is not a price range where you can drift casually from neighborhood to neighborhood and expect the exact same results. You need to decide what your money needs to do for you. Do you want the shortest commute, a yard, a garage, metro access, more bedrooms, a stronger balance between location, space, and condition? The right answer is different for every buyer, but the wrong answer usually begins when someone falls in love with a listing before they understand the life that comes with it. Here is my question for you. With an $850,000 budget, which option would you choose? An Arlington condo, an Old Town row house, a Cameron Station townhouse, a detached home in Annandale or West Springfield, or a low maintenance condo in Tysons? Let me know in the comments. And if you're currently looking, feel free to reach out and I can send you information on what's available in these different locations. And if you have a different budget, make sure to watch some of my other videos which go through what you can get at different price points here in Northern Virginia.